Attempt to get a Chicago area artist on the phone. His name's Jacob Gourealt, and we're gonna interview will commence if the dial-in telephone works.
Your call cannot be completed as dialed.
Hello?
Jacob? Can you hear me?
Hey, John, what's up? Yeah, I can.
Not much. I'm welcome to the radio hour. Let me just we're live right now. I hope that our listeners can hear us all right.
Yeah, I can hear the music.
Oh, excellent. I'm gonna fade that out. So
you're gonna talk to me for an hour?
Welcome to the radio. Well, we'll talk in not quite an hour, but we'll see how far we get.
All right, cool.
So I did a little introduction for you off the air, just letting people know that I was trying to call you. And maybe we can start out by, okay, so you're in the suburbs of Illinois right now, where your studio and your life generally take place. do you have anything else you want to introduce you for the guest on the show? You can.
Nope. I think that's good. I mean, I guess you're primarily doing this because I just had a show at the Green Gallery West. And then that's what we're going to talk about.
Yeah, I think that's a good place to start. Can you describe to our listening audience what your paintings look like? And you take your time.
Yeah. The paintings in the show I primarily made in like the last 3 months, and they're stemming from ideas on a lot of other paintings that I was making earlier regarding like more object-based painting, having less about like an image, more about an object hanging on a wall. And a lot of the marks and stuff stemmed from performances that I was doing, where I was making live paintings and cutting wood, stretching them, and just like little nuances and chances that were happening in that. It's like something that I ended up bringing back into my studio. And the paintings are pretty minimal, mostly black and white, made with several different types of paint, and then like a lot of them are spray paints from hardware stores that have like rubber and truck bed liners and stuff like that, and hockey tape, and then it's primarily, I don't know, but basically what I'm doing is I'm starting the mark making process like as soon as I get the materials. So I'm gouging the wood, sawing into the wood. They're stretched over 2x4s that I make marks on, and then I'm kind of making some abstract images on them, but they're monochromatic, and that's basically it.
Thanks. That's a great description of these paintings. So what do you hope people will notice about these objects?
It's I don't know if I'm like I'm a big fan of kind of like painters' paintings, or like paintings that artists make that really show the artist's hand throughout the whole process, whether that's like a really neat painting where it's not, or it's like a really messy painting. So I'm kind of like hitting in between that, where it is messy mark making, but then that's stretched over and cleaned up and just turned into an object.
Good. You mentioned the painter's hand or the mark making kind of throughout the painting, and it sounds like you're describing like the understructure kind of being revealed so that you see kind of elements of every step of the way. Some of these mistakes,
completely.
Decisions and mistakes being made. I had a thought earlier that this work could be interpreted kind of brutalist in a way, kind of like some of the early brutalist paintings, or like the Blue Rider groups of kind of really kind of raw brush work and kind of almost I guess just brutal, kind of heavy-handed, but But then after kind of like, observing your personality and kind of how your relationship to the paintings are, where they're like, it seems like they're less about brutality and more about a certain kind of grace, with I guess maybe with certain limitations in your palette. I mean, it seems like your palette kind of expands beyond the actual paint and into the entire construction of the canvas in this particular series.
I don't know, continue.
Oh, yes. I mean, do you think is this some element I just like of your personality kind of seeping into.
Yeah, like maybe like with like the language I use, like creates a certain attitude that I'm going for, or I'm a pretty picky person on the art that I like, so I judge myself on that, and a lot of stuff I make is just kind of stuff I want to see, or I see something in a painting and I like, and then I can use that my own way and kind of use it with other mark making techniques that I've done, and like language, even past language that I've used in abstract mark making, and bringing that around to kind of like create a certain attitude about each piece. But this show kind of had everything is pretty similar, so I felt like they could all be looked at like together, kind of like it's one big piece, even though they weren't. I don't know if that made sense.
Sure. Yeah, so they all have a similar demeanor, and they kind of...
Exactly.
Can you talk a little bit more about how performance plays into your paintings?
Yeah. I'd been doing performance for a while, and I studied at the Art Institute of Chicago with Justin Cooper, and kind of like this improvisational framework behind performing. And then I don't know, I always thought it was fun to collaborate with people in the studio, and we'd be like up, just drinking, making a painting or whatever, and staying up late. And then I was kind of just like, man, if I just add a few elements to this, I think that this would be a pretty exciting performance because I'd watched other people in their studios, and it was like really boring, and they're kind of like sitting there like gessoing a painting for a couple days, whereas I was cutting up wood and making 5 supports in 20 minutes, and then maybe I'd paint on one of them that night and have a friend paint on another one, and then basically I just started making paintings in front of people because I thought that I'd seen some people do that, and I thought it was like really lame because they're making kind of realistic paintings and like trying to wow people with how good they are at a skilled brushwork, and I was kind of like doing the opposite. So I started doing these performances, and they're really fun, and actually made like lots of great work throughout these performances, and that's certain marks and stuff that would happen by chance, and just kind of like working with somebody collaboratively, seeing something, the piece might end up looking completely different, but in my studio I can stop it beforehand. I can have a little bit more control over when the piece is done, and just color choices and timing. A lot of it's about timing, and so now when I make paintings, it's kind of just something that's part of my history, and
do you see paintings as more of a document now, or a time, like document of time or thought process? I mean, you see other paintings that way now? Seems like...
Yeah, well, that's like something that I'm more interested in. It's like sometimes I don't want to see, a finished painting on a wall looks great, but if you can retrace the steps of how it was made, that's kind of like something that's more enjoyable for me to look at in the painting, even though it's like I don't like the subject matter. I don't, there's like, my taste is pretty picky, so if I like don't like certain things, it's maybe like it's something I can look at the painting and it's like interesting. I'm like, oh, all your corners, you tucked in all your corners to the left, except for this corner is tucked over to the right or something. Which, who knows if they even noticed, or, taping off edges, and, because those are actually marks that you're making when you're making an object, and, like, a lot of people don't even think about that. They're like, I'm just going to make it look as clean as possible, or they're, I don't give a shit attitude. It's like, one or the other, and then this is kind of like a happy medium where it's like, I'm purposeful, it ends up that I'm purposely making these marks. Although, a lot of times, some of these things are just happening, or some of the wood found, or it's recycled. And it's, it has its own little nuances into it that I can play into and hit it with a saw here or there and kind of create more of a composition.
So do you watch movies or eat food in that same way, where you're kind of like thinking about how much fun it was for the people to make it?
Yeah, I definitely do. I don't know about, like, when I'm eating food in a restaurant, I don't know if I really think about that. Or, sometimes I'm like, oh, I can make this or something, or I can add something that would. But yeah, definitely when I'm making movies, or when I'm watching movies, that's like all. A lot of the time, it's like kind of distracting to watch a movie because I'm just trying to think of. There's like 20 people behind the camera, and they're all, trying to make this one scene happen, and they're like trying to make it look like it's a homemade movie or something like that. So that's stuff that I think about, or I'm pretty into documentaries, and that's like all I watch. And then like reading skateboard magazines and stuff like that, where they kind of talk about the process of like road trips, and because for like you're being like I guess like an athlete, you have to like watch what you eat when the day starts. As the day, they have like certain plans. So when you like are watching baseball or something, these they had to like go through a process throughout the day, so that they're not like woofing down a giant burrito and then having to like go play baseball for their job or something. So I feel like that's something that I end up thinking about myself or something. It's like, okay, just like, I don't know, like superstitions and stuff like that I have to do before I paint. But
so who do you envision you having an audience for your paintings?
I don't know. It's not something that I've really thought about that much. I think that people that end up liking my work or telling me that they like my work are people that actually like spend a lot of time in the studio or painting a lot. They're maybe like thinking about a bigger picture besides storytelling and painting, and that's what I've always found, is that it's kind of like soul painting or something like that. People who do look for more in a painting rather than just like what's the surface.
So some sort of painting specialist in some way or another.
I'm not like calling like that a painting specialist would like it or something.
No, I don't know. Just say that. Who you're envisioning, and maybe you don't think about that when you're performing, doing your object making, attitude object making?
Yeah, you know, in the performances, it's just like a pretty raw studio practice. I mean, we do some things where it's like you let the audience know that, you know, we know that we're on stage, but other than that, it's like I'm pretty much just, because I'll have a few people doing like the final marks on the supports, and so like I have to maintain a pretty rigorous stretching schedule, and I guess I don't really have time to think about that, and that's where, you know, kind of out of necessity to make something work, I'll end up coming up with a different form of mark making for paintings that I make in the studio.
Good. Can you talk about any influences within art and outside art?
Yeah, you know, like a lot of the documentaries I watch, kind of keen in on like that process-based orientation. I'm reading David Robbins' book. It's like interviews with Alan McCallum. I don't know how to say it. That's my mom's maiden name, but McCallum. And those are kind of interesting with his surrogate paintings. And I've heard him speak before and like the way that he talks about it. We got a really good book with Duchamp, interviews with Duchamp that are really entertaining. I think Duchamp's pretty on point with everything he says. Or it's like I agree with a lot of the stuff that he says. So it's, you know, like that's kind of the art books that I read, because it's easier to read like if you agree with a lot of the people. So,
sure.
You know, and I think that David Robbins talks about, you know, just how he can talk about a photograph or something. It's like you're starting with a photograph, and then he explains it to you, and then kind of expands on what he's basically explained to you. And even if when you look at a photograph, you're like, oh, you know, it's just a normal photograph. He kind of says the same thing, but, you know, talks about like the picture making process and like kind of identity of a camera or something like that. I paint with my buddy's 3-year-old kid pretty often, so we have fun doing that. He's got these awesome crayons that you can draw on windows with. And then my buddy's wife yells at him and makes my buddy Windex the windows, and then I come over and just do it again, and it really pisses him off. That's pretty fun. And then, you know, I have a bunch of good friends that are artists. I'm looking at them, like a lot of my favorite artists are probably, you know, people I know and hang out with. Although, like, lately I really haven't been, like, doing too many studio visits, or, like, people haven't really been seeing my work, because I did a performance at the MCA, like, a year ago, and really haven't had a show since then. And only my buddy Alexander Herzog has been the only one really doing studio visits. So that's why this show is kind of, like, fun for me or something like that, because no one had really seen this work, and you know, it's kind of like a more mature show for me, like a solo show as well. Very minimal, whereas most of it's like group shows or we're making a show live in a couple hours.
Sure. You actually kind of folded in a performative element to the show, though, having an opening and a closing in one night. Do you think you're working on the gallery scale kind of allows you to kind of apply some of those playful, performative elements that you've been really experimenting with on the painting surface or on the painting structure in the exhibition itself?
Yeah. That ended up working out really good. I was really pleased, just with your whole attitude, the whole attitude of the gallery in Milwaukee and stuff, just really refreshing. And, I do, in the performances when we're painting, I'm slugging beers pretty often, so that was kind of something that also happened. And it just worked out really well. I was really pleased with it. It really helped. I think it helped me in my studio work a lot more. To see which ones people will respond to. It's I was trying to finish off a few paintings, and I'd gotten that concussion, so I was just kind of out of it. And I was just like, all right, this painting's done. And then it ended up being a painting that I got really good responses on, and people really liked it. So that was kind of a fun element to just have something.
Post-concussion painting, were you saying?
Yeah.
That's impressive.
That was just, it was I didn't really have any time. A lot of those I'd finished a month ago, and then just kind of finishing up on some of the final touches and, getting a few more pieces that were cohesive with the rest of the work.
Mm-hmm.
The last minute painting, I usually have all my work usually done way before the show will happen, and then so it was just kind of working with the deadline, and because the show kind of popped up really quick, we kind of just planned it,
mm-hmm.
which I really enjoyed. Because that anticipation and stuff like that, gets on my nerves, or you start second guessing yourself, and then I guess that's why I just end up sticking with what I've already made, and then the new work goes into the next thing.
Can you describe a typical day in your life?
A typical day in my life?
Yeah, you mentioned earlier about the professional baseball player having to avoid eating burrito potentially before the game. I thought, maybe we could just give the listening audience a little sample of
okay. A day where I'm painting, or just a normal day, or a weekend.
Oh, maybe you don't have a typical day. As this question isn't.
Well, I work a 40-hour work week at a transportation company, and so I get off work at 3:30, and usually I have a hard time buying materials a lot of the time. So sometimes I'll go at lunch to the thrift store and try to find a sweater or a shirt that's nice silk or cashmere that I can stretch. So then I'll have that in my car. I usually got a couple in my car, and I've got pre-cut wood at work. I usually cut up some wood. Because I get free wood there and with saws and stuff, and I can make a big mess and just chop back it up real quick. And then I might stop by the store on my way home from work and get some cans of paint. 'Cause a lot of the time, I'll kind of make several supports in the same day, and then kind of sit on them and, maybe like make one a day or something like that. So then if I have to like stock up some supplies and then I'll use it all.
Mm-hmm.
And then, I get home and I usually try to get home and like stretch all the stuff and like get all the labor done and then take a shower and then like eat and stuff. And now that it's been like later, like more daylight,
Mm-hmm.
I've been just spraying these paintings outside, and I use like some enamel paints and stuff like that. It really smells, so it's nice to be able to do it outside.
Mm-hmm.
So I'll just kind of start a layer in the yard and then let that dry. And then maybe sometimes they just sit out there. I got like a little ledge where I got some turtles outside, like box turtles and tortoises, and
in your yard.
And I just set the paintings on the ledge, and they'll sit out there for a couple days, and then sometimes I'll either bring them inside, work on them inside in the basement, or maybe I'll spray them a couple more times, and then bring them inside. A lot of time I hang with stuff, but a lot of paintings that were in the show, I wasn't like hanging and looking on the wall at all, because I kind of got like some dingy light, so it's nicer to do it outside so that I can see what's going on.
Sure.
And then, like go to a friend's house for a beer, or hang out with my girlfriend, or do stuff like that, go fishing, go on a bike ride. I went with my brother and got shakes tonight, because I had a gift card to Overwise
So you
for giving blood.
You had shakes before this
Ice cream
interview?
shake. Yeah, I just had a big-ass shake. And I kind of got a lactose problem, but I'm feeling pretty good, actually. I think it's mental, actually. I have a mental lactose intolerance.
Yeah, I was going to ask if your paintings are psychological because of this attitude, the kind of demeanor that you talk about, and all those other things.
Maybe a little bit, or yeah. I don't know if...
They're just literal, concrete things.
No, they're not. I've got my own stuff invested into them. And like my own time and money and stuff.
Mm-hmm.
So, to me, they end up like being something more, but or it's like kind of like a lifestyle or like something that I, it's like, I used to paint like every day. Now I don't paint every single day, but, when it's like something that you're doing every single day, I think it does become like really psychological, or something that you're like planning on, like addiction or something like that. But now I've kind of like chilled out because I just have like way too many paintings, or like I have to get rid of them or rework them or stuff like that. And I was kind of doing like series of paintings where I was making a whole series and then giving them away. I think you got a painting from there.
Yeah.
At like at the art fair, and then so I guess it is. I don't know where I was going there.
Oh, if somebody wanted to have access to some of your paintings one way or another, what should they do? The listeners.
If they want to get one of my paintings,
If they somehow want to maybe purchase or somehow access your work.
see some of them. I don't have a website right now. You can email me at jacobgourealt@gmail. I've got a show at the Fowler Art Collective in Brooklyn, September guess you could like Google it. Maybe they could talk to you, John.
All right.
I don't know where else. Yeah, that's about it right now.
Well, that covered all the points that I wanted to hear about, including what was in your stomach,
Awesome.
why you make your stuff, and among other things.
Yeah, my first interview. It's pretty crazy.
You do an amazing job.
But I felt like I already talked about this stuff with a lot of people at the gallery. So I was trying to make it fresh without completely repeating myself.
Oh, it sounded good. Is there anything else that we didn't touch on that you would like to, announce while we're still being documented?
I think that's about it, I plugged that show in New York. Talked about my milkshake and my paintings and objects, so I think we're pretty good. How have you been? Have you had an alright day, John?
It's been great. And I'm really happy. I'm really pleased with that you could join us on this live broadcast. Be documented for
live from Winfield and Milwaukee, USA.
So, thank you, Jacob, and thanks, listeners, for tuning in to another week of Interview Hour with myself and special guest every other week. Have a good night, and tune in next fortnight.
All right. Have a good night.
Thanks.
See you, John.
See ya.
Bye.